Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining. And here we are with Archangel Alts Crypto in the News. Crypto in the News, instant insights. So this is a biggie. We're talking about mass adoption here, and this is one of those things that definitely could help launch more interest. Starbucks unveils key detail about its secretive Bitcoin strategy, which is a big deal because they have a strategy. That to me is news in of itself. Not that I haven't been aware. They've been talking about being able to accept Bitcoin for a while. It's just kind of been sitting out there without a whole bunch going on. So, excited to see this. An article in the block yesterday being this was the 5th, and today is the 6th. So yes, it's still yesterday. Super fantastic. Includes the following statement. Only U.S. customers will be able to pay in Bitcoin initially. They're referring to Starbucks' recent deal with BAKKT. The great hope of the crypto industry, which might manage to pull off the first crypto ETF. And hopefully it'll pull it off without changing anything else that's already out there. The deal gives Starbucks significant equity in BAKKT, but at no point does it actually require Starbucks to accept Bitcoin. Kind of seems like that would be the point of the deal, doesn't it? And for its part, Starbucks reportedly has no intention of doing so, at least not in the conventional manner. Starbucks will help you convert crypto to cash. Starbucks wants to help crypto users seamlessly move between Bitcoin and fiat. Okay, without even reading any further, let's say that you you're a local franchise, meaning that you are a local business owner that owns a Starbucks store, and they package you with all the Starbucks looking stuff, and you follow all the guidelines. For that location, you have to hire and fire employees, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You need a business model that survives on pre-projected assumptions about how much it's making month by month. Part of that is that, you look at the cost of your supplies and what you're using, and you have to assume that you're making, 20 cents on your margin or 30 cents or $1 on your margin, whatever that is. If you're just making regular coffee is actually not all that expensive to make or to buy. So 13 cents worth of coffee would easily, be $2 or something, and that would package, that fraction of, how many employees you're paying, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So obviously Bitcoin coming in, if it was worth $20,000 one day and $3,000 another day, that could really, hack through your business model where the intrinsic value of the coffee, suddenly becomes something volatile because of the payment structure. So it's very, very, very understandable that if somebody is a business and they want to accept Bitcoin, they need to have a model built in to where that converts to fiat. So what I'm reading into this without having read into this, and I'll see if I'm right once I'm done talking. Maybe I should do it the other way around. I don't know. Instinct is kind of fun. But just understanding a business model, it just seems to me that if you put the responsibility of going from Bitcoin to the absolute current market value right then you could say this coffee costs $3.79 fiat. So you're going to need X amount plus a small interest fee in Bitcoin to equal $3.79. And then, you do the cash transfer, they receive it in cash. So you used your Bitcoin to pay for something there, and they made it easy for it to go from your Bitcoin to cash. They receive cash. That would make a lot of sense, and that's a model that I can see other people handling. On the other side of things, I have seen in early Bitcoin documentaries, people that are pushing the mass adoption idea by going to local, grocery store chains and other types of things and explaining to them, how easy it is to take Bitcoin payments and that they would process those for them. For a fee, we'll handle all the conversions, all the other stuff. So the company told the Next Web that rather than accept crypto directly, it will create more ways for customers to convert Bitcoin and other assets into fiat, which can then be used at their stores, emphasis added. Our role as the flagship retailer for BAKKT is to consult and develop applications for customers to convert their digital assets into US dollars, which can then be used in our stores. Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying, and that's exactly the model to businesses and mass adoption. The thing is that this is going to start with people who are already hip to Bitcoin. And that's the thing is, will those people actually have friends that are not hip and cool like them? Non-millennials, the whole hipster thing. coffee and gastro, all this kind of stuff. Which, I mean, who wouldn't enjoy that, right? Okay. So we anticipate that a range of cryptocurrencies will gain traction with customers, and through our work with BAKKT, we will be uniquely positioned to constantly consider and offer customers new and unique ways to pay seamlessly at Starbucks. As we continue to move forward with this work, we anticipate we'll have more to share in the coming months. Now, here's something I want you to consider, and I'll make sure and supply a link to it. I'm going to try to think in terms of connecting news articles to each other. And one of them that we just covered was about Kroger. They're disgusted with Visa and going to stop using them in April 2019, just right around the corner. I can't believe it. Scary idea. So, here's a perfect example of how they could ease into the Bitcoin thing. And Pompliano take an initiative to go and speak directly to some of their teams, said that they were very cool, very forward-thinking people, and that they were definitely willing to consider taking Bitcoin payments. So here's just a perfect example of how Starbucks plus BAKKT could provide an easy way for them to implement such a thing. So, hip people enjoying their coffee hangouts and then grabbing some groceries on the way home, they could still be cool while going to Kroger. And that's a cool idea. You could be walking around, joining Archangel alts, learning how to trade stuff, especially as this stuff picks up and the wheel starts turning more and more and more. Exciting times ahead. Wouldn't that be cool that you earn some money, hang out at your coffee place trading, right? And then you go around the store with some of the profits that you just made, and you could use some of your Bitcoin to buy your groceries. How cool would that be? How cool will that be? Oh, yes. So some type of gift card situation is what's brewing at Starbucks. Some kind of BAKKT-powered seamless payment platform seems possible. As regards the Seattle-based coffee giant, however, the notion of a Bitcoin QR code at checkout seems far-fetched. See, I don't know. I think that it's very possible that the actual transaction handling could be within a QR code system. Let the electronics transact things quickly. And that's the thing, is that the transaction time is something that can speed up. So, yeah, I mean, you could always have like a front load wallet type thing, but then it acts like a credit card. There's already companies out there that are doing, coin-backed cards. And that's a credit system, so interesting stuff. So I'm going to let you read the rest of this on your own. All of these links are in the description, and I'm actually going to use these guys in case it's not the same thing. I've already got one thing loaded. Okay, that one's different. How the efforts of BAKKT. Now the efforts of BAKKT. Okay, it is the article that I already had loaded. So, because of the connection with Starbucks and BAKKT, I am making this news about who BAKKT are and what the deal is there. So interesting stuff. New York Stock Exchange owner. BAKKT is our moonshot Bitcoin bet. What do you mean? What do you mean? So this was written not too long ago. Bitcoin trading platform BAKKT is a moonshot bet for Intercontinental Exchange, the parent company of the New York Stock Exchange. That's the assessment of NYSE chairman Jeff Sprecher, who's also the CEO of ICE. While its launch has been delayed several times, Sprecher is optimistic that BAKKT will be worth the investment that ICE is making to nurture it. So do you see how closely hand-in-hand this is? Sprecher made the remarks during a February 8 conference call to discuss ICE's fourth quarter earnings. It's a bit of a moonshot bet, and it's been organized in a manner that's very different than the way ICE typically does business. BAKKT has its own offices, its own management team, etc. They're well along in building out an infrastructure that I think you'll see launch later this year. Family affair. Sprecher's wife is the CEO of BAKKT. Okay. Sprecher's Intercontinental Exchange, along with Microsoft, Starbucks, BCG, is financing BAKKT. Okay. I don't really need to read anymore. You can look at this, but I mean, this is going further and further into. I think this is very, very interesting. So, there's no question of the connections here. It would take a miracle, I think, for BAKKT not to get its thing. And here's the thing. This is just a little fuel for, food for thought here. Fuel for something else. I'm not really sure. BAKKT ETF widens the view for people that are willing to consider the Bitcoin category as an asset class. Okay. At the same time, just the mere launch of these things is enough, not just to fuel some, actual normal excitement about things, but those that want to see it succeed are people with a great deal of power, with thousands and thousands and thousands of Bitcoins that will want to make sure that it succeeds. And the best way to do that is to show serious, major market activity. So the question there is, does that market activity pull so much volume from the alts that they're just kind of dangling there? Or does it, go up only in certain circles and leave things like Binance behind, where there's such a huge volume shift in something so huge as Bitcoin that it starts to get, massive movement in areas outside of the exchanges that have been holding it in place all this time. So, and by holding it in place, I mean it's gone down 60%, and then that amount went down 50%, and then that amount went down 60%. And we're seeing some nice spikes in recovery. And I think that that's with efforts being very much in place to help it be a healthy market. There's just so much more that can be done. And Binance is a very good example as a launch pad and a source of giving projects traction, and their, Binance Academy, helping people understand what it is that you do, and, just lots and lots of great stuff. But, there's a lot of question as to what that huge surge looks like. My hope is that the activity on the blockchain proves that whatever direction Bitcoin as a group themselves is the right one, that they are actually able to handle capacity. Has anybody considered that SEC, BAKKT, and all of these guys are kind of holding the news patterns in place until they know for sure that Bitcoin can actually handle it? Because I'm sorry, but Dash and Bitcoin Crash Cash and Tron and XRP alone and Ethereum are not going to hold the market if Bitcoin can't transact. So, smaller size allocation, larger size allocation for the hash rate. Those are things that the tech guys got to work out. There's a certain logic to both of them. I'm hoping at some point that I could actually talk to Richard Hart about his input on all of this stuff. It'd be really, really interesting. So go and read this page. It's very interesting to see how all this is connected. So, when we saw in the first article about Starbucks how the efforts of BAKKT could lead to the approval of the first Bitcoin ETF, so now we're looking at this article, and this was not too long ago. The SEC has disapproved, this was back when it was disapproved, 10 Bitcoin exchange traded funds in the past month, but analysts believe BAKKT can assist the launch of the first Bitcoin ETF. BAKKT's efforts in finding trusted price information. Last month, the SEC officially rejected the Winklevoss Bitcoin ETF filed with the BATS BZX exchange with a 92-page document which explicitly stated that the commission was not satisfied with the dependence of the value of the ETF on public cryptocurrency exchanges. Specifically, the SEC said that strictly regulated exchanges like Gemini operating in the U.S. market with a proper license are still not resistant to manipulation. Yeah, the regular stock market is manipulated. And hence, there exists risk involved in basing the base value of a Bitcoin ETF on the price listed on exchanges. Well, sure. And I mean, let us know what amount you need it to be and we'll rig it. Wait, that's what you're saying you can't do. Okay, I got you. Okay. So, do you understand how the idea of an ETF is in direct contrast to the volatility that we use to trade Bitcoin? And that nobody in the history of Bitcoin's growth has ever had to go to a government and say, government, please tell us what Bitcoin should be allowed to be valued at. So that's the kind of stability you're talking about. And if you want stability, it's never going to leave that range. I mean, if we come along and say it's never going to be more than 5 and it's never going to be less than 4, And we can guarantee that kind of stability because, here are the teams that are doing the majority of the trading and mining. And then that gets it approved, and then it goes wild. Who cares? Whichever way. Do you understand that the chances of Bitcoin going to the moon are best by doing exactly what it's doing right now? Don't screw with it, folks. I'm telling you, you don't want this overly regulated government intrusion, government stable coins, government stuff. I am not an anti-government guy. I think that it serves the purpose that it's supposed to serve. And the problem with governments is that it's people. People are corrupt by nature, and greed by nature, and fear by nature, and power by nature. Lots of human interests that can be used for good, but are typically, when given too much power, it becomes a godlike drug to those in power. So there's a huge issue in what an ETF will actually do to the value of Bitcoin. People need to be a little bit smarter. Please help us with the hashtag crypto louder megaphone. We need a louder megaphone for crypto. I know it's weird, but it's kind of cool and fun, and you'll like it more as it goes along. Recently, BAKKT, a new company designed to bring digital assets to the mainstream, created by Microsoft, Starbucks, and the New York Stock Exchange. We love decentralization. Stated that it is working on building a consistent regulatory construct, transparent, efficient price discovery, and an institutional quality pre- and post-trade infrastructure. Oh, guys, I don't like the feel and the sound of this. I mean, if you add 10 million people and then everybody is kind of crushed into a corner about what we're supposed to do in trading, you need to have take the blinders off and understand what this stuff actually means. So a critical element to price discovery is physical delivery. Specifically with our solution, the buying and selling of Bitcoin is fully collateralized or pre-funded. As such, our new daily Bitcoin contract will not be traded on margin, use leverage, or serve to create a paper claim on a real asset. So we've been talking about this as far as margin trading using leverage. A lot of what people will do when they're leading these different groups is to make it seem like their percentages are much larger than they are, and then come in and what was maybe a $5,000 trade, is earning profit on $50,000 leverage. So there's what they're saying is that everything is pre-purchased and set at a certain value, so theirs doesn't fluctuate like the market does. So that can have an effect on the actual activity that people are trading on the market. So it's just something to consider. So one brief second. And finally, here we have from CoinCentral, BAKKT, a global ecosystem for regulated digital assets. And this was back in November of last year, but that's okay. We were just learning a little bit more about BAKKT. BAKKT is a new company from the Intercontinental Exchange, ICE, the organization that owns and operates the New York Stock Exchange. Has anybody heard of them? Do we know anything about New York Stock Exchange? Are they big? ICE has significant experience operating security exchanges and already owns a number of exchanges around the world. Institutional money is coming, and there's an explanation as if they're excited about it. Why is everybody thinking that decentralized and New York Stock Exchange can live and cohabitate? Okay, at least that's what we've been hearing from the cryptocurrency media for the larger part of this year. Investors have had a tough time in 2018, and it's not hard to see why many are searching for a catalyst to reignite the bulls as we head into the final months of the year. Will the big players save us from these quiet markets? I mean, I hardly think if you're really watching Binance that you think that it's a quiet market, but it means kind of being in at the center and at the beginning of the real crypto revolution that's going on. BAKKT seems to think so. The hunt for yield. The total amount of money market cap floating around the cryptocurrency markets pales in comparison to those locked up in equity bonds, derivatives, and other traditional financial instruments. With interest rates at record lows and in some countries at negative levels, investors are looking for new ways to make money. So what is BAKKT? BAKKT is this, small thing, securities exchange, something backed thing. It's, backed by some, tiny little mom and pop thing called the New York Stock Exchange. And I don't know, have you heard of Microsoft or Starbucks or BCG? I don't know. Anybody that could find out something about them, let me know. So I don't know if they're big enough. So here's the thing. Barriers to entry. Despite the optimism outlined by the project, there are still a number of obstacles that face institutional investors looking to get involved in crypto. Custodial services and regulation. Getting hold of and securing crypto assets in large quantity is still a concern for many would-be buyers. There probably isn't a month that goes by without news of a hack or security flaw highlighted somewhere. With Bitcoin, I can't think of the last time there was a big hack story about Bitcoin. Managing your own money can be stressful. That's true. Managing the money of a pension or retirement fund is another matter altogether. So we want to use Bitcoin for backing retirement funds? The BAKKT ecosystem plans to provide an institutional-grade custodial service from the get-go. Furthermore, while other projects and exchanges have suffered from regulatory troubles, BAKKT will be working with the CFTC and other regulators to reassure institutions that any potential investments will be compliant before trade begins. So you're looking at being able to trade on basically a pre-purchased massive fund of Bitcoins. Well, right now on the market is 17 million out of the 21 million that exist. So you're either going to have to buy some at a certain rate, at which point you're certain that it'll go up from that rate, or you're going to, it can either be an agreement between individuals that already have a lot and buying on market or other things. My concern there is that it almost guarantees that you're going to see a massive drop in the value of Bitcoin before BAKKT does what they're looking to do. It's the manipulation isn't, it doesn't have to be on the market in order for it to happen. In closing, institutional buyers, more exposure to digital currencies, yada, yada, yada. Never a more important time for this to be a grassroots effort, and grassroots mean individuals with their hundreds or thousands of dollars that want to learn how to protect their own interests and their own growth, and to learn how to trade on the exchange. So come and join us, subscribe, ring the bell, comment, give us a thumbs up. Come join us at archangelalts.com. Join our community. We're growing, and what the community's missing is your voice. So come and join us. Thanks so much, and for now, Archangel Alts out.